a no-knead sesame encrusted peasant bread that we will bake in an oven-safe glass bowl. Yes, no Dutch oven, not even a lid needed to make this absolutely gorgeous loaf of bread. Sally, that girl, in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally, that girl, in the kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make a no-knead sesame encrusted peasant bread. But the most exciting thing about this bread is the fact that we do not need a Dutch oven to make this bread. We don't even need a lid. All you're going to need is an oven-safe glass bowl, and you will have the most delicious, impressive, beautiful looking bread in no time. It's easy, requires very little equipment. We're gonna do this by hand. There's no kneading at all. And it is going to be an incredible bread that I know you're going to love. So I am super excited to teach you how to make this recipe. So let's not wait another second and let's get started. For today's recipe, you will need 2 cups of bread flour, 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of warm water, 1 tablespoon of softened butter, or of course, if you prefer making a non-dairy version of this bread, then you can use Parve margarine instead. And 2 tablespoons plus 1/2 of a teaspoon of tricolor sesame seeds. You will also need either a dough whisk or a large fork, such as a serving fork, for mixing your ingredients. You'll also need some dry measuring cups, a wet measuring cup, some measuring spoons, and either a dough cover, which is what I'm going to be using, or a clean kitchen towel, or even some plastic wrap, a large bowl for mixing your ingredients, and then you're going to need a 1-quart oven-safe glass bowl for baking your bread in. So please be sure that you are using an oven-safe bowl. And of course, you'll need some oven mitts for when your bread is ready to come out of the oven. And you'll need a cooling rack to allow your bread to cool a bit before slicing into it. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is add 2 cups of bread flour to your large bowl. And then right on top of that, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of sugar, just right on top. You don't have to worry about separating your ingredients. And then you're going to add 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast, also right on top of that. And then once you have all of those ingredients in, you're going to want to measure out 1 cup of water, and you're going to warm it up in your microwave just until it's warm, not super hot. I warmed it up for about 40 seconds or so, but of course microwaves do vary. So you just want it warm, and then you're going to pour that right on top of your dry ingredients. And then I'm going to be using my dough whisk, but as I said, you can use a serving fork instead. And then you're just going to mix this all together. So all we're doing is combining the dry and wet, and we're just forming a shaggy dough. Remember, this is a no-knead bread, so this is really it. We're just gonna mix the ingredients together, and that will form our dough, and there will be no kneading at all. You are not gonna believe how quickly this bread comes together. So all I'm doing is using my dough whisk to scrape off the sides of the bowl, and you'll notice that the dough itself just picks up any little remnants of dry flour that are in the bowl. I'm just using my dough whisk to scrape down the bowl, making sure that I get any little pieces that are clinging to the sides and picking up any dry flour that I may have in my bowl. But you saw how quickly, this is real time. I'm not speeding up the video. This is being recorded in real time, and look at how quickly this dough ball came together. I literally just mixed this together for what, maybe a minute, and that's it. I totally have a dough ball ready to make bread, and there's no kneading involved, and that's it. I just mixed everything together, and there we go. My dough is ready to go. So now all that's left to do is to cover our dough, because we do need to let that yeast do its magic. We want to let it rise. And then I'm using a dough cover. You can use a clean kitchen towel. You can use plastic wrap, but you need 2 hours of rising. So I'm gonna place my bowl in my oven turned off. And I'm going to, of course, set out a little reminder so that nobody turns my oven on while my dough is in there rising. But you can pick any warm little corner in your kitchen, and then you're gonna set a 2-hour timer to allow your dough to rise. And then after 2 hours, you can bring your dough out and uncover it, and look at how beautiful and bubbly it looks. The yeast has done its thing, and remember, we did not even need this. Super, super easy to come together. So now I'm going to grab my oven safe bowl. This is a 1-quart size oven safe bowl, and then this is where I'm going to be baking my bread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab 1 tablespoon of butter. It's soft because I left it out on the counter while I was preparing everything else and while my dough was rising, and that way it's soft. And then I'm just gonna grab that pat of butter with my hand, and I'm just gonna use my hand to spread the butter out all around the inside of this bowl. So as I said, if you don't want a dairy bread, well, you can pick up some non-dairy margarine and you can do it with that instead. But this step is really gonna give our bread such incredible flavor and a beautiful color. And of course, it's going to form that crust when we layer this with those tricolor sesame seeds. Wait until you see how absolutely gorgeous it's going to turn out. And of course, you can just imagine the smell as this is baking with this yummy layer of butter that's gonna permeate the bread. Just absolutely divine. So now I've covered the entire inside of my bowl. It looks absolutely perfect. And then of course, not only will this provide flavor, but it's going to allow my tricolor sesame seeds to stick. So I've measured out 2 tablespoons plus half a teaspoon of my tricolor sesame seeds, because that is enough to cover the entire inside of the bowl. And then I just measured it into a little bowl because it just makes it easier for me to add it into this bowl. And then all I do is I sprinkle it all the way around, and then I just turn my bowl to make sure that those sesame seeds cover all of the inside of the bowl, because that is going to form an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous crust. And you want to make sure that you cover all of the insides of the bowl. And then this is what it should look like once it is ready. And now you saw how easy that was. I mean, making this dough could not have been any simpler. And then making that crust also super, super easy. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our dough. And what I do is I just use my fingers to just gently release the dough from the glass bowl. I'm just using my fingers, and notice I didn't even punch this down, because by doing this process, I'm releasing a little bit of air from our dough, and that's more than enough. I don't want to punch it down completely because I do want to keep some of those beautiful little air bubbles running throughout. So I'm being very gentle. I'm just using my fingertips to release the dough from the bowl. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the smaller bowl, and I'm going to bring this big bowl over, and just right on top of the smaller bowl, just using my fingers, I'm going to gently release the dough, and I'm going to allow the dough to just fall into my oven safe prepared bowl, just like that. You see how I'm just using my fingertips to release the dough that's clinging to the glass bowl. And then that's it. I just allow it to fall right in there, and I'm going to let it sit there. It's going to have to sit and finish rising just a bit before we bake it. And look at how beautiful it's looking already, but you can see it hasn't risen all the way to the top, and we do want to give it a chance to just rise a little bit more. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave this sitting on our counter uncovered at this point, and it's gonna dome up and just rise a little bit more. So I'm gonna set a 30-minute timer to allow it to finish rising. And then I'm also going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 425, making sure I have a rack placed in the center. And then after 30 minutes, you can come and take a peek. And so at this point, it's been about 20 minutes, I'd say. And you see it's risen a little, but it's still not all the way up. And it's really going to depend on the temperature in your kitchen. It could take anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. So at this point, it's been about 30 minutes. So if you see after 30 minutes that you could still allow your dough to rise just a little bit more. My kitchen tends to be really cold. So in my case, I am likely going to allow it to rise just a little bit longer. I really just want it to rise up really nice. So I'm going to set another 10-minute timer, and I'm going to make it a total of 40 minutes for rising. And here we go. You see, I added 10 more minutes, and now it's ready to go in the oven. So I'm popping it into the center rack, and I'm setting a 15-minute timer to start the baking process. And look at how gorgeous it's looking after 15 minutes. But once that timer goes off, I'm going to set another 15-minute timer, but then this time I'm going to lower the oven and I'm going to set a temperature of 375 degrees without opening the oven door, just to allow it to finish baking. And after those second 15 minutes, the bread is ready to be pulled out, and it domed up. It developed an absolutely beautiful color, and the smell is intoxicating. Imagine that smell of fresh bread combined with the smell of the butter and the toasted sesame seeds. Wow, wow, wow. So now very carefully, and using my oven mitts, I'm going to flip the bowl over, and I'm going to remove the oven-safe glass bowl, and we have an absolutely gorgeous looking no-knead sesame encrusted peasant bread that we baked in an oven-safe glass bowl. And look at how beautiful. The shape is perfect. It becomes this perfect round ball of bread. It's just such an adorable loaf of bread. And it was easy. There was no kneading, wasn't complicated. If you're a little intimidated by bread baking, this is a really great recipe to start with because there's really nothing to it. You saw how simple it was. Mix ingredients in a bowl, layer the other bowl up with either margarine or butter, depending on which one you want to use. Sprinkle on the sesame seeds, put that dough in there, and then bake it in that oven-safe glass bowl. And it is gorgeous. So of course, I've let it cool a bit before I placed it on my cutting board, because you do not want to cut into bread right when you pull it out of the oven, because all you're going to do is deflate all that beautiful air, and it's really just going to mush up that crumb on the inside. So resist the temptation to cut into it immediately. You want to let it rest for at least 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe even 40 minutes. Just let it rest before you cut into it. And you can admire it and just take in the aroma in the meantime. Because yes, it's gorgeous and it's very tempting. And we made it in a glass bowl, an oven-safe glass bowl. How crazy is that? It gives it a beautiful dome shape. It's perfect and it's easy. So now I've waited long enough, and it's time to cut into this gorgeous loaf of bread. Wow, the smell is so incredible. Look at how beautiful. You see the crumb on the inside? It's just airy and spongy and beautiful. It's just a beautiful loaf of bread. Look at how beautifully spongy that loaf is. Incredible and so easy. It could not have been easier to make. And really, the result is just so beautiful. You can make homemade bread all of the time using this recipe, and it's so easy to make. You can even make 2 or 3 loaves at a time. Just get your hand on a few of these oven-safe glass bowls, and you can make multiple breads at once. That's how easy they are, because they really just get mixed together and they just rise and go in the oven. Could not be any easier, but it's beautiful. It's impressive. It's got a beautiful crumb. The texture inside is beautiful, and that crust on the outside. Wow. So now I've grabbed one of my favorite preserves because I absolutely love apricot. If you've watched my videos before, you know I also love fig. Those are my favorite preserves. So I'm going to go with a little bit of apricot preserves for this, but it's really so spongy and delicious and buttery and nutty with that sesame encrusted layer that I could just eat it absolutely plain. It needs absolutely nothing on top, but I'm gonna indulge and just put on a little of my yummy, yummy apricot preserves, and I'm gonna sample this bread because I am literally salivating as I prepare it. It is smelling so incredible. Wow, look at how beautiful, soft, and spongy. The texture is absolutely perfect. So crazy good. Really, just the perfect texture. I cannot begin to tell you. It's yummy, nutty, just absolutely divine. So delicious and so easy. I can't get over the texture of this bread is just so perfect. I just absolutely love it. And the ease in which it is made, you are not going to believe it. You are going to be baking bread all of the time. So how crazy good does this no-knead sesame encrusted peasant bread look? And of course, the best part, we baked it in an oven-safe glass bowl. We didn't even need to cover it, and we get this gorgeous bread that just rises so beautifully. And of course, that crust, that sesame encrusting on the bread is spectacular. And of course, since we coated the bowl, the flavor just gets completely infused into that bread. And of course, you can eat it just like that, just nice and soft and pillowy. But if you toast it, when it warms up, you just smell the butter. It's just amazing, super tasty. You're gonna love this bread. Trust me. No, better yet, don't trust me. You're gonna have to try to make this recipe yourself. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thank you so much for liking my videos, for writing a sweet comment, for sharing them with your friends. Thank you. That means so much to me. And of course, I love hearing from you. I love when you reach out to me. So if you're not already following me on social media, you can find me as Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram, and on Pinterest. And you can find me as Sally That Girl FL on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok. And I love when you message me, you send me a picture of what you've made. I love that you've been inspired and that you actually make something that I teach you how to do. So thank you for reaching out. I absolutely love that. And of course, if you're not already subscribed here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to Sally That Girl in the Kitchen because I'm constantly putting out new recipe videos all of the time, at least once a week. And if you explore under either my video tab or my playlist tab, you are going to see that there are so many recipes. There are tons of different recipes there for you to explore, including some of my other artisan breads that are made in a traditional Dutch oven and so many other things. I do breads, appetizers, sides, mains, desserts, and of course my Sephardic Turkish dishes, which I am famous for. So be sure to check all of those out. Don't miss them. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Sally That Girl in the Kitchen.